and seasonal greetings to you. Today, you'll be very glad to know that we are joined by the Patriotic Front President, okay, correction, and I'll say it again, President, not acting. And also, he is also the Tonsa Alliance Chairperson, Honorable Given LUBINDA, who's actually here to help us, dismantle a number of issues that are driving the conversation in the country. Honorable, thank you so much for making time for us.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to your podcast.
We are glad to come to you and have a conversation on behalf of the Zambians.
Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable, before we get into it, I would like to tell the audience out there that at a later stage, we'll be allowing you to participate via, you can go to our Facebook pages, leave on various Facebook pages you're watching us from, leave a comment there. Also, you could use the numbers on the screen and be able to call us and talk to Honorable later on the show. But in the meantime, I'd like to discuss one or two topical issues with the PF President as we go. Honorable, to begin with, the former PF Secretary General, Davis Mwila, alleged that you are not Zambian and claimed that your father is from Scotland. So our question on behalf of the Zambian people is, who exactly is Given LUBINDA, and are you a Zambian citizen?
Thank you very much for that very important question. And to answer that question, I don't think that reference must be made to anybody. Davis Mwila and any other person can have an opinion that they wish, and they can say whatever they want about other people. But what remains to be true is the reality. And the question that I think you want me to answer is, am I a citizen? For me to answer that question, I have to first of all refer to what is it that makes a Zambian a citizen. Citizenship is prescribed by the grand norm of the country, by the Constitution. And Part 4 of the Constitution is the one that prescribes for the categories of citizenship. Fortunately, I carried the Constitution with me to this program, and so that people get it very clearly, so that this debate may be closed, not only with respect to me, but with respect to any other person who wants to question another person's citizenship. What they should do is to look at Part 4 of the Constitution, and particularly at Article 34, which provides for categories of citizenship. Article 35 provides the first category. That's the category of citizenship by birth, meaning a person born in Zambia is a citizen by birth if at the date of that person's birth, at least one parent of that person is or was a citizen. That's the first qualification, to have been born in Zambia to at least one Zambian parent. Then you are a citizen by birth. Secondly, there is also citizenship by descent. That's the second category. And this is a person born outside Zambia is a citizen by descent if at the date of that person's birth, at least one parent of that person is or was a citizen by birth or descent. That's the second category. The third category is citizenship by registration. And it says a person is entitled to apply to the Citizenship Board of Zambia to be registered as a citizen if that person has attained the age of 18 years and was born in Zambia and has been ordinarily resident in Zambia for a period of at least 5 years. These are the three categories. And the fourth category, according to the Constitution, is citizenship by adoption. The fifth is dual citizenship. Now, from these 5 categories of citizenship, I want to make it very clear that I carry a green national registration card. And I was born in Zambia. And yes, one of my parents may have been from Mars. They could have been from anywhere. But for as long as one other parent was from a citizen of Zambia, I qualify as a citizen by birth. So there's no question about it. I'm a citizen of Zambia by birth. And being a citizen of Zambia by birth, I have equal rights to a citizen of Zambia whose both parents are Zambians. This is what the Constitution provides.
There's been some some assertions that because one of your parents allegedly is from Scotland, you cannot run for presidency in the country.
Thank you. I hope that I've settled the issue of citizenship.
Yes.
I'm a citizen by birth, and this is because one of my parents was a citizen of Zambia.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, we also ought to be careful not to categorize people based on the pigmentation of their skin. My other parent could have been born in another country, but according to the Zambian constitution, they could have been a citizen of Zambia by registration. All right, and they themselves probably were a citizen by adoption. So to just look at a person and look at the pigmentation of their skin and the color of their eyes and the structure of their hair and think, no, one of their parents is a foreigner, is being a racist, a terrible racist. So before you declare others non-citizens, first investigate. So those who are calling me a non-citizen simply because of the pigmentation of my skin and the structure of my hair, they're being extremely mischievous. And such mischief must be stopped. Now, having cleared that, I also ought to say, I would not have been a member of parliament at all hadn't I been a citizen of Zambia. Because one of the qualifications for one to be elected as a member of parliament is that they must be a citizen of Zambia. And if I have been a member of parliament for as long as I have been, how come that today my citizenship must be challenged? Now let's go to the question you asked, that because one of my parents is non-Zambian, therefore I do not qualify to be nominated as president of the Republic of Zambia. Again, you know, if this was to be said by a streetwise person, I would not bother. But if this is being said by people who have held government offices, it causes worry in me. Because this questions how these people are managing government affairs. If a person in government today or in a previous government was to ask whether I qualify to be nominated as president, it raises goose pimples, because then you start to realize that probably we're being governed, or we were governed by people, some people who are totally ignorant. And to be governed by ignorant people is a big danger to society. However, let me clarify this for the sake of your viewers. Article 100 of the Constitution is the one that provides for the qualification to be nominated as president, as candidate for president. And maybe I should ask you to read Article 100 so that people can understand exactly what it says. Please, Article 100.
So I'll read Article 100 on qualifications and disqualifications for nomination as presidential candidate. 101 says a person qualifies to be nominated as a candidate for election as president if that person, it says it gives points A up to J, so I'll read all of them. Is a citizen by birth or descent. B, has been ordinarily resident in Zambia. C, is at least 35 years old. D, is a registered voter. E, has obtained a minimum adequate qualification, a grade 12 certificate or its equivalent. F, is fluent in the official language, which I like to think is English. G, has paid that person's taxes or has made arrangements satisfactory to the appropriate tax authority for the payment of taxes. H, declares that person's assets and liabilities as prescribed. I, pays the prescribed election fee on or before the date fixed for the delivery of nomination papers. And J, is supported by at least 100 registered voters from each province. I don't know if you'd like us to look at what disqualifies a person?
I think that what is important are the qualifications. However, maybe for the sake of clarity, you can also go into how a person is disqualified.
Yes. 2, a person is disqualified from being nominated as a candidate for election as president if that person is a public officer, has dual citizenship, is holding or acting in a constitutional office or other public office, is a judge or judicial officer. E, was removed from public office on grounds of gross misconduct in the immediate preceding 5 years. F, has a mental or physical disability that would actually make the person incapable of performing the executive functions. G, is an undischarged bankrupt. H, is serving a sentence of imprisonment. I, has in the immediate preceding 5 years served a term of imprisonment of at least 3 years.
Thank you. So I'm sure that your viewers have followed what you have read. And with particular reference to citizenship, Article 101A is what is at play. And it says for a person to qualify to be nominated as a presidential candidate, they ought to be a citizen by either birth
or descent. Yes, yes.
Now, I already explained, I read the Constitution. A citizen by birth is one who was born to one Zambian parent. The other may not be Zambian. Descent is one who is born outside Zambia to one of the parents being Zambian. So where then do those who are saying I'm disqualified refer? What provisions of the Constitution are they referring to with regard to qualification by citizenship? And you went through all the qualifications. The others are qualifications that I have to attain. I have to go and pay my taxes. I have to have 100 people to support me. And the disqualifications, you went through them. Not a single one disqualifies me. I don't have dual citizenship. I've never been imprisoned. I've never been discharged of my official duty as a government officer in the last 5 years. So what is it that they are using to argue that I'm not qualified to be nominated as president of the Republic of Zambia? So again, this is coming from doomsayers. And it's so sad that some of the people who are saying this are people who rubbed shoulders with me when I was member of parliament. Some of them actually were my students in parliament.
In fact, a lot of us were very surprised hearing from Honorable Davis Mwela, those words coming from Honorable Davis Mwela. We thought he was your SG when you were Minister of Justice. You have been PF. We wondered what went wrong.
You know, hadn't it been out of malice and mischief, what Davis Mwela should have done is to go to the police and report me for fraud. If indeed I wasn't a citizen of Zambia, he should have gone to report to the police and say this man obtained his citizenship by fraud. Or he should have said this man, he stood as member of parliament for Kabwata through fraud. He doesn't qualify. For him to come and talk about my presidential qualifications is because obviously he is one of those who has given himself to campaign against me. Even before the time comes for me to say I'm going to contest the elections as presidential candidate.
I'll come to that. I'd like us to move on, Mr. President. Your recent actions against some party officials have raised eyebrows within the PF. Some argue that as acting president, you do not have the authority to remove central committee members. Our question to you is, are you abusing your authority?
Not at all. As a matter of fact, I also want to say to you and to say to the viewers that a lot of members of the Patriotic Front have actually blamed me for what they call indecision. A lot of members of the Patriotic Front have said to me that you are exercising too much restraint and too much patience. And this is the reason why some people have become rogue in the party. That when people have done wrong, you talk to them, counsel them, and you let life move on. That has been my style all the time. But then there comes a time when order has to be called. And in this case, the people who action was taken against are people who committed what I considered acts that threaten the security and the progressive development of the party. And that is the reason that I use the authority that is vested in my office by the Constitution. I am not in any way abusing my authority. I also ought to inform your viewers that seldom do I make decisions on my own. Seldom do I do that. How do I mean? Let me illustrate. When I was first appointed acting president in 2021, September, by President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, the first thing I did was to expand the consultative structures of the party. I went to the Central Committee and asked the Central Committee to allow that we introduce two new consultative structures. One is the National Executive Committee. If you look at the constitution of the PF, it doesn't have that structure. What my predecessors would do, President Michael Sata, may so rest in peace, and President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, may so rest in peace, whenever they had an issue and they wanted to consult, they would decide which people they will call as their kitchen cabinet, their kitchen consultative cabinet. And they will consult, and after that they will go to the Central Committee and inform the Central Committee on their position. I felt that that was too discretionary, because I feared that if that was to continue, I would then be tempted to be calling friends who have a similar view as mine. And I decided, let me make this a part of the party structure. I introduced the National Executive Committee with designated officers as members of the NEC, so that irrespective of the matter, irrespective of my personal view, that team, the constant team, would be advising the office of president before decisions are passed for the Central Committee to consider. The second structure I created was the Council of Elders. Having realized that the party had become of age, we had been around for 20 years. There were some elders in the party who had held positions in the Central Committee, some had held positions in government, and I felt these cannot be discarded. This is a reserve of wealth. I went to the Central Committee, I proposed, and my colleagues agreed that we establish the Council of Elders.
Yeah.
And that again was a platform which I have been using for consultation, so that I don't run the temptation of making unilateral decisions. So these two structures I created purely because I'm a very consultative person.
Wonderful.
And all the decisions I've made, all of them, have been subject of consultation. I have consulted
all these structures that have been created.
through these structures that have been created. Now, when you ask me, are you abusing your authority? Some people have argued that the Constitution provides that the president is the one that should exercise those powers. And they have assumed that for me, because I was not elected, therefore I am not president. Now, that again is a misinterpretation of the Constitution. Because the Constitution at Article 54 is very clear. It states very clearly, and maybe you should read it so that people don't think that I am paraphrasing.
Well, that's a PF Constitution.
This is the PF Constitution, and let me open the page that is relevant at Article 54. Please read Article 54 with particular reference to D.
Okay.
Please read through the whole of it so that people can understand.
So 54, it talks on Vice President functions and duties. The Vice President shall have the following powers, duties, and functions. A, to be the principal assistant to the President of the party. B, to exercise all such functions as may be delegated to him by the President. C, to act for the President in his absence. D, to exercise the functions of President in case of death or removal from office in the terms of Article 3.
Very well. So that is very clear. It says to exercise the functions of President in case of death or removal from office in terms of Article 53. In this particular case, when I was appointed Vice President in September 2021, I was also made to act as President because President Edgar Lungu had gone on sabbatical. At that moment, I was acting President. We had a President. After 5th June, the whole scenario changed because now President Edgar Lungu had passed on. And according to Article 54D, from the day that President Edgar Lungu went to be with the Lord, this constitution bestowed upon the Vice President
all the functions,
being myself, all the functions of
the President.
Now, I would like you to look at what is under the functions of the President.
Maybe I can read it for
I want you to make reference particularly to Article 61J and see whether indeed I'm abusing my authority or not. We have clarified under Article 54D that I, who was Vice President at the demise of the President, had now to take over all the functions of the President. If you take over the functions of the headmaster, who are you?
You are the headmaster.
You are the headmaster. If you take over the functions of the driver, you are the driver. You cannot continue to be lorry boy because you are now functioning in the position of the driver. And I was Vice President. From the date of the demise of my dear departed big brother, I took over the functions of the office of President, which means that all the functions, all the powers and functions of the President became my functions. And because you were asking a very cardinal question, am I abusing my office? Please look at Article 61 with particular reference to J.
To J, okay. So, Article 61, powers and functions of the President of the party. If I look at this, I'm sure you can see it's a P of Constitution we're reading. So, A, be the principal spokesman of the party on national and international affairs, create offices in the party, preside over meetings of the Central Committee, D, convene meetings of the Central Committee and National Council, E, exercise discretion in regard to items for discussion by the Central Committee or the National Council and may, after explanation to the appropriate body, delete any item from the agenda of a meeting. F, give instruction to any official or member of the party. G, empower any member of the party to exercise any powers or specified functions for and on behalf of the President, party, or the Central Committee. H, appoint ad hoc or standing committee to advise the party on any matter whatsoever. I, have power to take disciplinary action against a member of the party on the grounds of the member's misbehavior and shall report his action to the Central Committee for ratification. U, take a decision or action which, in his opinion, is in the best interest of the development or security of the party. This is J, right?
J.
So I'll read that J again because I said U. J, take a decision or an action which, in his opinion, is in the best interest of the development or security of the party. And K, appoint a member of the Central Committee to act as Secretary General of the party in the absence of the substantive holder of the post.
Very well. Now, you can see the powers that the office of the President has. And I don't know if there is any decision that I've made which is outside those powers and functions. All the decisions I've made are well provided for in Article 61. Now, there are people who continue to argue that I don't have the power because I was not elected. And this is deliberate. You can see in that constitution that the president of the Patriotic Front has the power to create offices.
Yes, yes, yes.
So today I can just decide that I'm going to create another office of president. And the constitution allows me to. Today I can decide that I'm going to create 6 secretary generals. The constitution allows me to. The constitution also allows me to take any action. At J, it says to take any decision which in his opinion is in the interest of the development and security of
the party.
If, for instance, I have an opinion on my own, I have an opinion, and I want to be dramatic. I have an opinion that a member of the Central Committee, because I saw them last night in a tavern with a member of another political party, and in my opinion, that meeting is planning to sabotage the party. It is my opinion. It doesn't have to be qualified. Just on that opinion, the Constitution allows me to dismiss that member. I do not even have to go and report to the Central Committee. I only report to the Central Committee if I'm taking disciplinary action. For example, if a member of the party insults another, and I think this is a disciplinary matter, it doesn't affect the security of the party, then I could say, I'm taking action against this member and I'll go and report to the Central Committee. But if in my opinion, that insulting and altercation risks the security or development of the party, I may dismiss that person, and that person's only recourse is to the General Conference. That's what the Constitution says. So with that kind of power, those who are saying, no, he's abusing power, they are actually telling the Zambian people that I must remind them that I'm actually using this power with caution. I'm using it with a lot of caution. There are some decisions I could be making now, following that Constitution, which I have not made. And I've not made them because I want to hold the party together. The Constitution states, for example, that the president shall be the chief spokesperson on national and international matters, affairs. Now, in this party today, you hear everyone standing up and making comments about the party without recourse to me. What does that mean? They are breaching the Constitution. Because I am the chief spokesperson of the party. Whoever wants to speak on the party, they have to come to me and ask, Mr. Chief Spokesperson, I have this matter which I would like to speak to. Do you authorize me? If they don't, they are breaching the provisions of the Constitution. And if they breach the Constitution, I could also, in my opinion, say this statement that you issued, this public announcement you made is threatening the security and development of the party, and therefore I am taking action against you. But I've been restraining myself. And the reason I'm restraining myself is because, like I said earlier, I don't like to overstretch my power. I don't like to make people feel that I have power. I like people to feel that I am with them, we're leading together. But this, I have to say, between now and the time that we have the convention, people must remember that I still have that power. And I'm not going to allow that this hanky-panky business must continue. Those who have given it to themselves to be going around saying whatever they want, even insulting me and criticizing me, must be on the lookout. For people, for example, to go out in the press and start to say, Lubinda must explain to us, the president must explain to me. Let them be forewarned that I will not continue to tolerate this, because this is threatening the security of the party. In any organization, you need order. And that constitution was structured in that manner so that there is some order. Without order, you can't govern. We need order. As we go towards the convention, I want to instill order. Whoever doesn't want to be in keeping with the instructions, with the regulations of the party, must know that they are bound to cross the path.
Thank you, Mr. President. I hear you, and now that you mentioned the General Conference, I'll come to it very, very soon. But in the meantime, I would like to know, you have also been accused of purging party officials who are perceived to be supporters of a particular presidential aspirant. Our question to you is that is this an attempt to clear your path to become the PF president at the forthcoming General Conference?
I wish that those who are saying that could also name first the members that have purged and the candidate those people or the candidates those people are supporting. As far as I'm concerned, there is nobody I have removed from their position based on their support for anybody. None whatsoever. I removed some members of the Central Committee in the interest of the security of the party. In my opinion, which, by the way, after I formed that opinion, like I said earlier, I did not just wake up and say, I'm going to do it. I went and consulted colleagues. And I asked them, do you agree that my opinion is correct? They modified my opinion because of the extra information they gave me. And then I made a decision. So it was through consultation. There is not a single person who can say to me that, yes, it is because I told you that I support this one, that's why you removed me. Not at all. Secondly, the members of parliament whom we expelled, did I select them? No, I did not select them. Your viewers will recall that we invoked a 3-line whip concerning Bill 7. And a 3-line whip is a practice of all Commonwealth parliaments. When a party decides that on this matter we want all of you, our members of parliament, to vote in this particular manner, whoever crosses the 3-line whip is considered a renegade. And a person who does not follow an instruction on the 3-line whip cannot be said to be in good standing with the party. A person who decides to collude with an opposing party in parliament cannot be said to be keeping the security of the party, cannot be said to be having the interests of the progressive development of the party. Such a one falls straight in the jaws of Article 61J.
Just now that you explained this, I've just come up with a question, and I want to just create this hypothetical scenario. If someone else was president, for instance, let me just say, there's another person, Jackson Piri is a president, and LUBINDA, you are my MP and you're in parliament. There's a bill that I want you to go against with, and you don't agree with it. You deep down in your heart, you know that maybe this bill is not progressive for the Zambian people. But I, your president, is telling you need to go to vote for this bill. What would you do?
Fortunately for me, Mr. Piri, again, I want to illustrate how consultative I am. The decision to go against Bill 7 was not arrived at by myself. That decision was arrived at through consultation. The Central Committee of the party, right from the start, when the UPND started the process of amending the Constitution, we as a party were against it. We were against the process. Even before Bill 7 was crafted, we had several meetings with members of parliament of the Patriotic Front and some independent members of parliament. I want to inform your viewers, Mr. Piri, that in one of the meetings I actually requested presidents of other opposition political parties just to come and sensitize our members of parliament. I had presidents such as Fred Membe, such as the State Council Chifumu Banda, State Council Sakwiba Sikota. I had President Ernest Mwansa. I had several presidents came along to meet our members of parliament. We discussed the matter. I again had another meeting with the members of parliament, and all of them were agreeing. It wasn't us, Central Committee, imposing on members of parliament. It was a process of dialogue and consultation. Now, when Bill 7 finally was crafted, two patriotic citizens, in the name of Celestine Mukandila and Munia Zulu, very patriotic young men, they realized that the constitution was about to be butchered through Bill 7. They went to the Constitutional Court and challenged the Constitutional Court on whether that process was constitutional. The Constitutional Court handed down a judgment where they said the amendment process being used through Bill 7 was unconstitutional. Okay? If you look at the Constitution and look at grounds on which a president can be impeached, one of the grounds is to abrogate the Constitution. So, once we got that judgment from the Constitutional Court, that this process, which was inspired and sponsored by President Hakainde, was declared unconstitutional, what we did was to immediately call all our members of parliament. We called them together, we had the judgment before us, and we asked them, colleagues, do you know the ramifications of this judgment? And a number of members of parliament agreed. They said, yes, this is an impeachable offense. We drew attention to the fact that the UPND MPs attempted to impeach President Michael Chilufya Sata, if you recall. They also attempted to impeach President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. All right? And members of parliament agreed. They said, even if we don't have the numbers to impeach President Hakainde, we want to demonstrate to the Zambian people that we members of parliament cannot watch the president abrogating the constitution and we lie down. No, we have to show the Zambian people that we are going to do what we sought to do. We took oath to defend the constitution. And if anyone breaches the constitutional provisions, members of parliament have a duty to call them to order. It is actually provided for in part 1 of the constitution that it is a duty of every citizen to defend the constitution. More so for our members of parliament. We even asked, I personally asked Celestine Mukandila, I said, Celestine, you and your friend Munia Zulu, you are the ones who went and caused the court to come up with this judgment. Can you, Celestine, draft an impeachment motion? He drafted the impeachment motion, which was presented in that meeting with all the members of parliament. And in all honesty, when I put the question, how many of you agree that we should go ahead with this impeachment motion? You sign it so that you debate it. There were only two who opposed. 2.
Out of how many?
Out of 52 at that time. 2 opposed. The others all agreed that yes, we're going to sign this impeachment motion. So it wasn't me, Mr. Piri. It wasn't the Central Committee alone. No, it was arrived at through consultation with members of parliament. What was absurd was that 2 weeks passed, and when I inquired, where is the impeachment motion? I was told, no, some members of parliament have told us, no, let me first go and study the whole impeachment before I can sign it. And the impeachment motion now is lost somewhere, and members of parliament have not signed it. I again convened a meeting with members of parliament, and I told them that, look, what you are doing is not acceptable. This was agreed by all of us. Further to that, when we saw that the government had decided to defer consideration of Bill 7, we again continued to have interactions with members of parliament. And you heard members of parliament having their own meetings. PF members of parliament, they were having their own press briefings and saying, all of us in the PF will not vote for Bill 7. So the question you asked, if you were president of the PF and I was your member of parliament, and you told me, can you vote in this particular manner, and I don't agree, I will say to you, Mr. President, I don't agree. All right? But as for me, if you say I don't agree, I'll bring the others together. And if the majority of you say we don't agree, then I'll have no other action except to go to the Central Committee and say, our members of Parliament have these arguments. Can I bring the members of Parliament to speak to you, members of the Central Committee, so that we compromise? That's what I would do. So if you were my president, I would encourage you to do that, to make sure that my views are also heard. And in this particular case, as I've illustrated, the views of the members of Parliament of the PF were solicited and they were given to us. And we were in agreement. Now, that fateful Monday, when Bill 7 was voted upon in a very ridiculous manner, on a Sunday, if you recall, we convened a press briefing. Members of the Central Committee had gathered. And it wasn't me who pronounced that statement. It was the national chairperson of the party, Madam Jean Kapata. She said very clearly, in no uncertain terms, she said, all our members of Parliament have resolved that they will not vote for Bill 7. However, we hear that some may have been compromised. That was the time when people were talking about members of Parliament having been bought, having been paid 3 million, and so on and so forth. And she raised her finger and said, this is not a threat, it is warning. Whoever in the PF, among the PF members of Parliament who is going to vote for Bill 7, they must consider themselves expelled. Now, that is in keeping both with the provisions of the party constitution and precedents. Okay? It is in keeping with the provisions of the constitution and precedents. I'll remind your viewers that in 2009 or 2008, my memory deceives me on which particular year it was, you recall that there was the National Constitution Conference. And the Patriotic Front had members of Parliament. We met again as members of Parliament with the President, President Michael Chilufya-Sata. And we said, how do we handle the NCC? Central Committee plus members of Parliament voted and said, we shall boycott the NCC. There was a vote. And by the way, that vote was quite controversial, because I think that those against the NCC were only one person more than those in favor. But just because of that one extra vote against, the party was bound. All of us members of Parliament were bound not to go and attend the NCC. Mr. Piri, there was money at the NCC. You saw my dear friend, the late Minister of Local Government, Member of Parliament for Solwezi. You saw him. You saw his picture in the then Post newspaper, Teta Mashimba. A picture of him was published in the Post newspaper, carrying loads of money like this from Parliament. There were millions paid to members of Parliament to participate in the NCC. Even us, members of the PF, we were broke, we needed money. But because we stood by the principle of collective responsibility, we decided we will not go to the NCC because we want to maintain the security and development of the Patriotic Front. Those who defied the instructions of the party, what happened to them? There was no disciplinary hearing made whatsoever. President Michael Sata invoked the provisions of Article 61J and said, you fellows who have gone to the NCC, you are risking the security of the party, and ejected them. So, both by precedents and also by the provisions of the Constitution, those members of Parliament who voted for Bill 7 must consider themselves expelled. Now, who are they? We don't have any documentary evidence up to now. There's been a lot of speculation. And yes, we saw members of Parliament who sat in Parliament at the time of voting. And when we add the figures, we see the tally. One can make a very intelligent conclusion, and one that can be supported, that those who sat in Parliament at the time of voting voted for Bill 7 because the numbers tallied. However, we have no documentary evidence because, and back to what I said, that ridiculous voting. Ridiculous because it is unprecedented in any parliament in the world, especially Commonwealth parliaments, that a vote of such nature is kept secret. Voting on matters like that in Commonwealth Parliament is of public interest.
Isn't it up to Parliament to be able to publish who has voted yes or no?
No. No.
Is Parliament mandated to be able to produce the names?
They are obliged.
They are obliged to.
They are obliged to produce.
So if Parliament does not produce the list of MPs who voted yes or no,
it is illegal.
That's illegal?
It is totally illegal. Because all proceedings of Parliament are public. The only proceedings of Parliament which are in camera are proceedings affecting Parliament. When Parliament starts to discuss itself, those debates are in camera. Because those do not affect the public. Decisions that affect the public are open to the public. They are not making decisions for themselves. They are making decisions that impact society. And society must have the right of knowledge.
Mr. President, before I bring in the public to come in, PF members across the country have been living in uncertainty regarding the date of the General Conference. When will it be held?
To answer that question, let me take advantage and also answer the other question that many people are talking about. I've heard some people, even members of the Patriotic Front, saying we should have held this convention in 2022.
2022, yeah, it started, yes, and it's being dragged, delayed.
Yes, that we should have held this convention in 2022. So, give me this opportunity to address that.
Please.
After President Edgar Chagwa Lungu decided that he's going on sabbatical leave, there was mounting pressure from individuals saying, now there is a vacuum at the presidency. And according to the Constitution, when the president resigns, we should have an extraordinary conference. That pressure led to the Central Committee agreeing that let us open up for expression of interest by those who intend to contest the presidency.
Yes.
They did not open up nominations. They opened up expression of interest. After having gone through that process, 9 members of the Patriotic Front paid their 200,000 kwachas as an expression of interest.
Not nomination.
Not nomination. Not nomination. Then we said, before we go to the conference, can we look at our constitution? And people said, our constitution requires refining, it requires reviewing. We spent a lot of time going through the constitution to come up with a draft constitution. It was agreed by the Central Committee that we are going to have a back-to-back conference. We start with the Constitution Review Conference, and after we've adopted the new constitution, we give it a day or two for that constitution to be deposited at the Registry of Societies. And then we come back and now have an elective constitution. Because you cannot have an election based on a revised constitution which has not been deposited with the registrar.
The Registrar of Societies, yes.
Now, it so happened that the date that we had set coincided with the date of the Umutomboko. And when we set that date, it was before the Mwansabombwe chiefdom came up with the date of Umutomboko. Along the way, they came and announced that the date was such and such, which coincided with our date of conference. Further, it also coincided with a very important church visit for President Edgar Chagwa Lungu in Katete. Some leaders of the party actually came to my residence to alert me of this coincidence. By that time, the acting Secretary General was no other than Anthony Kasandwe. And they convinced me that we can't hold the conference At the same time that we
These
have
two
Muto
events
Mboko
and
a
the
visit.
yes.
And I said, in that case, I agree with you. Can you announce a postponement? After that postponement was made, soon after that, 24th of October, what happened?
There was the
Mao Sampa was abused, to use the right term, was abused, and came up with that coup.
When you say Mao Sampa was abused, who abused Sampa to come up with a coup?
The fingerprints and the footprints of Hakainde Hichilema and the UPND are printed everywhere in this, everywhere. And I've said this an upteenth time, that denial by UPND does not save them at all. It just makes them appear like people who think they can hide behind their little finger. Because as you were well aware, on that day, 24th of October 2023, President Hakainde was hosting Tanzanian president, celebrating Zambia's independence celebration. Who in this world has ever heard of any country which can allow an opposition political party to have such a big gathering as a convention when that country is celebrating independence? It doesn't happen, nowhere. That's one footprint. The second, you saw how ZNBC outside broadcasting equipment was at State House and shifted to go to Mulungushi just in time for the convention of Mao Sampa to start. Who could have commandeered that? Certainly Mao Sampa didn't have the capacity to do that. Number three, you saw how many police officers surrounded Mulungushi International Conference Center. There were battalions upon battalions of police officers, armed police officers. When have you ever seen police officers going to guard a convention of an opposition political party? Never. By the way, I also want to inform our members and inform the listening public that we had prior information about that meeting. And we sent our people to go into that meeting to go and challenge its legality. We were shocked that police at the gate of Mulungushi International Conference Center were the ones who were asking for credentials. Can we see your credentials if you are invited to this meeting? That's how our people were turned away. Our members were turned away. Our youths were turned away. When have you ever seen police providing such important services to opposition political parties? Added to that, if you recall, the very next day, we were told that fingerprints of those who were elected at that convention had already been lifted by the police, and now the application for change of office bearers at registered societies had been delivered. When has police ever worked in the night to pick fingerprints of people, even criminals? It never happens. But also the incidences at the registered societies, that all show that President Hakainde Hichilema and his UPND machinery were involved in this.
Has Mao Sampa ever been subjected to disciplinary after that ordeal?
Mao Sampa, when he was going around and having all these issues, he obviously put the party in disarray. But as God would have it, the Holy Spirit must have reached Mao Sampa. He himself realized that what he had done was not in the interest of the party. And at that time, if you recall, we had already announced that Mao Sampa was no longer in good books with the party. You may recall that it was actually I who suspended Mao Sampa. And after that, there were all protracted court cases. But when he himself realized that what he had done was not in the best interest of the party, what did he do? He went and reconciled with his uncle or elder brother, Edgar Chagwalungu.
We saw those pictures, yes.
He reconciled with the president of the party. And the president of the party informed us, I have reconciled with my young brother. My young brother wishes to come back to the fold. And as forgiving as Edgar Chagwalungu was, and as embracing as we are in the party, all of us in the Central Committee said, yes, welcome back. Come back, Miles. So there was no reason for us, there was no cause for us to take any action because Miles Sampa showed remorse and wanted to be embraced, and we embraced him. And I'm glad that the remorse that Miles Sampa showed to us has been supported by his resilience and his willingness to contribute vigorously to the development of the party. Mr.
President, producer says there's a caller. Okay, so you are able to use those numbers on the screen. Please, you can call us from wherever you are watching us from. If you have any contribution or question for the PF president, given LUBINDA, who's actually here to have a question with you, to have a conversation with you. We'll be wrapping up shortly. Now, as we wait for the questions, according to records at the Registrar of Societies, Honorable Robert Chavinga and his group are the legitimate office bearer of the PF. What is the legitimacy of your planned General Conference?
First things first, that is not necessarily accurate. The Registrar of Societies record was supposed to have been amended after the High Court ruled that Chavinga and Ngona were rightly expelled by Miles Sampa. Miles Sampa obtained a judgment in his favor against Chavinga and against Ngona. Now, it is just that the Registrar of Societies is weaponized against us. This is the reason why they have not effected that. So the record is that the one who is actually president, legally president, according to the documents at the Registrar of Societies, is not Chavinga and Ngonga. It is Miles Sampa. Now, the question you have asked, very important question. The legality now has been because of two outstanding cases. The first outstanding case is the case of Monduvile and 8 other members of parliament versus Miles Sampa, Chavinga and Ngona. That matter was heard recently. And you heard that the MPs were represented by Honorable Kampiongo, who argued the case on behalf of the party that the convention that was held by Miles Sampa on the 24th of October was illegal. The defendants are Miles Sampa, Chavinga, and Ngona. Miles Sampa, having reconciled with us, recused himself and said, no, I'm not going to comment on this matter. Me, I am now with the party.
Yes.
So it left 2 people to go and defend and argue that the convention was legal. Chavinga stayed away from that matter. He didn't testify. Ngona went and testified. And what did he say in testimony? I am not aware of whether the convention was legal or not. Me, I was only appointed by Sampa. And the court ruled that the 2 parties shall make their written submissions, and soon after that the court shall make a determination. That's one matter that is holding us back. The second one is the injunction, the ex parte injunction that was obtained by Chavinga and Ngona in Kabwe. Why did they go to Kabwe? Your guess is as good as mine. Had they gone to Lusaka High Court, the registry in the Lusaka High Court would have said, but you guys, here is a judgment against you. So they went and chose Kabwe. In that matter also...
What about when Chavinga says that he's going to report you to the police for masquerading as an illegal president?
That's why I've said to him, he can go anywhere and report me. I have no problem. He can go anywhere and report me.
Have a caller? Okay, let's just bring in the public. Hi there, good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon. Hello. Good afternoon, thank you. I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hello? Okay. They have cut. I think there's a caller here from I think it looks like from the US of A. Hi there, good afternoon.
Hello, good morning.
Good afternoon, thank you. You're
Speaking with Moses.
Come again?
Hello.
Come again, I can hear you.
Speaking with Moses. You're speaking with Moses from within Lusaka.
Oh, Moses, please go on and talk to President President of the PF, given Winda.
Good afternoon, LUBINDA.
Good afternoon, by Moses.
Yes, it's quite sad that we see the opposition for the first time in the history of Zambia in such a disorganized manner. And we all need to agree that all this confusion in the opposition was just brought by one man, and that man was Edgar Chagwalungu. Edgar Chagwalungu, in as much as we could talk about him, the good things that he did, he was a greedy man.
So you only have 2 minutes, and you only have 2 minutes. Please hurry. Please be as quick as you can.
This is the man who thought like leadership is all about himself. This is the man who could not appoint anyone as his successor. This is the man who came back to politics because Mao Sampa just fished him out. If Mao Sampa had not held that convention, this guy would have just been hiding in the name of retiring from politics, but he had the intention of coming back to politics. We thank God that Mao Sampa fished him out, and we thank God that now the PF party is in the hand of Chavinga. You guys, what you need to do is just work with Chavinga, let Chavinga appoint you the position that you could possibly have in the party. At the end of the day, you are just wasting your time.
You have 5 seconds. You have 5 seconds.
Like PF with no.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's keep to time so that we can allow a lot of calls. Hi there. Good morning. Good afternoon. Hello. Good afternoon. Thank you. Hello. Okay. So there are numbers on the screen that you can use to give us a call. Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? Hi there, good afternoon. Hi there, good afternoon. They can't hear me. Good afternoon, can you hear me? I can get you, can you hear me? I can get you, can you hear me? Okay, so when you do call us, if you can hear me, just go ahead with your contribution. Sometimes it's a network issue, but you can go ahead with the contribution and we can hear you. For those of us who have just tuned in, there are numbers on the screen that you can use to call us. Please use those numbers and give us a call. If you have any contribution or question for the PF president, given LUBINDA is actually here to have a conversation with you. See if you can give us that call. Hi there, good afternoon. Hi there, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Yes, we can hear you. Are you able to hear us?
Yes, yes.
Okay, please go on and share your contribution.
Bwino mukwaye muri shampi.
Bakosmas, you have 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
Okay. My call to the president and the PF at large, I would love to see maybe peace. Because if ever given can organize all the MPs and all the members of parliament and other stakeholders to call them come together and make one idea to compete in 2026. Because if this confusion is going to be like this until somewhere maybe next year, March and April, it will be very difficult for the opposition to create a platform to beat HH. So my main call, I think what I can say is from the president, the given LUBINDA, the only way I can give is that just create unity between the MPs. That's why even Bill 7 in Apita, because of the same what? Because of the same system of being not united. So my only call that we are given, Lubinda, we are pleading you, please, sir. Just create a platform to unite all the MPs and make one idea, choose one president to make sure that we have a candidate before maybe April 2026. I thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I'd like you to respond to this caller.
Thank you, Cosmas. Did you say Cosmas?
Yes.
Thank you, Cosmas. You said you're a youth, and thank you for being so forthright. Indeed, it is our duty to make sure that we unite all loyal members. And beyond that, it is our duty to unite all opposition political parties. But for us in the Patriotic Front, it is a very important prerequisite for us to have a general conference or a national convention as soon as possible. And allow me to seize this opportunity to explain that what DSG admin Celestine Mukandira said about April, he did not say the convention will be held in April. He was explaining that according to the constitution of the Patriotic Front, the last convention we held was in May of 2021, and the 5 years elapses in April of 2026. And he was saying, according to the party constitution and also according to the Republican constitution, we cannot cross April 2026 without having had a convention, meaning the convention shall be held between now and April, not necessarily in April. The convention can even be held on the 13th of January. What we are waiting for now is the clearance of the two legal matters. One in Lusaka, the Munduvile plus 8 other MPs against Chavinga and Ngonga. And the second one, the ex parte injunction that was obtained by Chavinga in the Kabwe High Court. Once those two are out of the way, then we are ready to proceed to the convention. And we in the Patriotic Front, I particularly, am eager to go to the convention because I am tired of people saying, Katidefye. When I go asking, lobbying people to support the party, others are going to them and saying, no, Katidefye, he is not incumbent. I am sick and tired of people challenging me and saying he has no power because he was not elected. I am the one who is in the greatest hurry to have the convention so that we have a president who can exercise power without people undermining him. I am in a hurry.
Mr. President, are you planning to contest for PF presidency come the AGM?
I told every citizen that I am putting my name. That's how I paid the 200,000 kwacha expression of interest fee. Now, the nomination itself, according to our constitution, closes 24 hours before the conference. And I want to say between now and then, anything could happen. But where we are now, I have told the people of the Patriotic Front that can they please consider me as one of those people aspiring to lead them.
Wonderful.
And I have my credentials, which I am selling. I started my political career a long time ago. I started my political career in 1998. And when I say political career, I'm talking about the national politics. Before that, I was very active in student politics. Those who are of my age will remember that I was actually Secretary General of the Zambia Union of Students Organization, which is the umbrella organization of all students in the country. I was active in student politics from the age of 7 when I was first elected secretary of Young Farmers Club in my primary school. So I've been involved in leadership from that early age. But fast forward, I can sell myself as being a veteran politician. I started my political career, people will not believe this, but I started my political career in the UPND as a section chairman. And quickly I rose and became ward chairman. For Chilenje ward, by the way, I was ward chairman for Chilenje ward. I attempted to contest the by-election for Chilenje councillor, but at that point, my employers felt, no, this was not the right position for me, and they encouraged me to stay on because only a few years later, the parliamentary elections would take place. After being ward chairman for Chilenje, I became constituency chairman for Kabwata constituency. I rose from that position to becoming provincial chairman for Lusaka province, the position that is now being celebrated by Mwali Teta. I held that position before him. I rose from provincial chairman and was elected chairman for information and publicity in the UPND in the elections that were held in 2006 after President Anderson Mazoga, Mwana Mubotu, may his soul rest in peace. I miss him dearly. He was a great leader. He brought everyone together. He held the party together beyond race, beyond tribe, beyond any kind of inclination. He was a great leader. I miss him a lot. However, after that, because of all the hegemony that took place at the convention of the UPND in 2006, I moved on and became a member of the Patriotic Front, where I was immediately appointed by President Michael Sata as chairman for information and publicity in the Patriotic Front. Later on, I went into elections, the 2010 elections in Mulungushi. Again, I was elected through that election. I held several positions in the Patriotic Front. I held the position of chairman for local government, and I ended up holding the position of chairman for agriculture and livestock development before President Edgar Chagwa honored me to become vice president of the Patriotic Front and now president of the Patriotic Front. That is the political side of it. When it comes to the national politics side of it, as everybody will know, I was first elected member of parliament in Kabwata in 2001 under the UPND ticket. And 2006, May 2006, I moved on. I left UPND, but I stood for elections in August on the PF ticket. And people had counted me out. They said he was elected on UPND, he can't win on PF. Much to their surprise, I won with a landslide in the 2006 elections. I won again in the 2011 elections and the 2016 elections. During that period, 2011, or from 2001, by the way, to the time I left Parliament, I was a very active parliamentarian. If you go to Hansard of Parliament, you will not find any member of Parliament who raised as many motions in Parliament as I did. In 1 year, I raised 98 amendments to the budget. 98. By the way, this I have to state so that people understand clearly. I think it was in 2009 when Minister of Finance was Magande. I might miss the year, but when Minister Magande was Minister of Finance, he had made a change. He moved Constituency Development Fund and made it District Development Fund. And because of that, he increased the amount. And I struggled, I amended that. And the whole Parliament was very happy when I moved that amendment. The net effect was that I just changed the name from District Development Fund to Constituency Development Fund, but did not change the amount. So what that meant is that the amount of money that was allocated per constituency was increased.
Yes.
Now, I was the founding Secretary General of the African Parliamentarians Network Against Corruption in Zambia, and I was elected very quickly to become the chairman of the African Parliamentarian Network for the continent. And from Zambia, I formed African parliamentary networks around parliaments on the continent. I traveled everywhere in Africa to go and establish APNAC. I ended up being chairman, global chairman, of the Global Organization of Parliamentarians Against Corruption. I formed various parliamentary entities. One that I'm very happy about, and it has made a lot of progress, is the Caucus on Climate Change and the Environment. I was the founder of that. I also founded the Parliamentary Network on the World Bank in the Zambian Parliament. I was the founder of the Catholic Parliamentarian Council in Parliament. I was the founding member, but because I was busy with other parliamentary bodies, I asked others to chair it, and I became secretary.
Mr. President, the CV is not going to end.
But let me also conclude, just to show how ready I am to take the realm of leadership at the highest level.
Yes.
I have held numerous ministerial positions. I first held the position of Minister of Information, Broadcasting and Tourism. And people remember that soon after that, President Michael Sata moved me to Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And he left the Ministry of Information, Broadcasting and Tourism as it was. But only 3 weeks after that, he transferred the Ministry of Tourism to me. I'm the only minister who was attracting ministries that follow him. The Ministry of Tourism came and followed me. I became again minister of two ministries, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Ministry of Tourism. And as fate would have it, some people were getting concerned that President Michael Sata, you remember that he was not a tourist president. He wanted to concentrate on local matters. So whenever there were summits abroad and so on, people are getting worried that it was always me who was going to represent him and so on and so forth. And that's how some people came up and crafted all sorts of allegations against me and so on. And thanks...
What sort of allegations were crafted against you?
The allegation that was crafted against me was one that wasn't even proved. Because when I went to their hearing, they were asking me things that I hadn't even been charged for. I was charged for espionage, that I was selling information to foreign countries. I was selling information to UPND. And nobody even adduced any evidence of that. When I went to the hearing, they were asking me all sorts of trivial issues. Anyhow, I'm very glad that I went through that, because as far as I'm concerned, baptism through fire is what makes a person. That's what makes a leader. And during that time when I was out of office, I am very happy that I continued to enjoy a very cordial relationship with President Michael Sata. I kept going to his office. And he asked me if I wanted to go back into his cabinet, and he told me, I'll give you this ministry and that ministry. On that one particular day when I was there, he actually picked up the phone and called the then Secretary General, Winter Kabingimba. He's there now. He was called, do you know who I'm with here? And he used to call him Kajongosi. Mr. Kajongosi, do you know who I'm with here? And he said, no, I don't, sir. And he said, I'm here with Mr. Zayelo. Mr. Zayelo is coming back into cabinet. When he hung up, I said to him, no, sir, I'm not coming back into cabinet. For as long as you have people in cabinet who can frame me for offenses that I didn't commit.
That I have not done, yeah.
And after that came Edgar Chagwalungu, and I'm very grateful to him that he made me Minister of Agriculture and Livestock. And after that, he split the two ministries and left me with Ministry of Agriculture. Then came the 2016 elections. He said to me, I know you're not a lawyer, but I know how smart you are. I know how hardworking you are. Even if I have some lawyers in my cabinet, I don't want any one of them to take the Ministry of Justice, because it is not just a question of you knowing the law. It is a question of the acumen you have and the ability to lead. And I'm sending you there because I know that you do a good job in the ministry. And he made me his Minister of Justice. I want us to move on because we don't have a lot of time. Very well, very well.
Quickly, and I would like short answers so that we can conclude. If someone else wins at the convention, someone else other than you, are you supporting that person?
Well, that's a very good question to ask. And where I am now, I'm asking myself, if the people of the Patriotic Front do not see value in me as president, what position do they want me to hold? So I have to do a lot of introspection. I am in a very awkward position that I have had all this experience, and I am at the helm of the party today. And if the party says, no, we don't want you, then the question that I'll ask myself, and I haven't asked that question, by the way, because it has not crossed my mind. The question I'll ask is is there somebody with as much experience as I have? Is there somebody who can be comfortable with me, serving under them? So I think you've done a good thing to ask this question, and it gives me the opportunity to start reflecting upon it. Let me reflect upon it, and I'll make this known pretty soon.
Please. With about 8 months remaining before the 2026 general elections and your party's internal wrangles still unresolved, we're talking about court cases, talking about anybody who wants to stand. What are the prospects of the PF being on the ballot paper?
Very high, very, very high. I have confidence in the judges that are handling these two outstanding matters. And I don't see how a judge would say, yes, the convention was legal, when the people who claimed its legality have failed to submit evidence to that effect. And also the matter that is in Kabwe. I don't really believe that surely people who don't have locus can sustain an ex parte injunction. I'm not too sure about that. But let me not comment any further because that could be contempt. But I am confident that soon and very soon, the Patriotic Front will be handed back to the rightful owners, and the Patriotic Front will be on the ballot paper.
When it's time for nomination and the Patriotic Front has not, hypothetically speaking, has not been handed back to you and everybody who supports it, what's the plan B?
We've always talked about plan B, and I can say to you that there's plan B, there's plan C, and there's also plan D. But the immediate action that will be taken by the Patriotic Front is to be smart. And in being smart, I'll just give you an analogy. If you are traveling on a truck and your truck breaks down and your destination is Kafue, and your truck breaks down in Chilanga, and you can see that this truck won't be repaired, and another truck is going in the same direction, you'll only be a fool if you don't jump on that truck. So that is our plan B. But there's also plan C and plan D. Because why am I saying this? It all depends on what the outcome of the court will be. The one thing that I would not like to see is that we are denied ownership of the Patriotic Front, and the Patriotic Front is used by other people. That I'd like to urge all members of the Patriotic Front. Let us guard against that. If we don't have the Patriotic Front, then we ought to find plan C to make sure that no one owns it.
Quickly, you recently announced the expulsion of PF MPs who voted for Bill 7. And I think just yesterday, or the other day, PF Kasama Central MP Sibongile Mwamba endorsed the UPND mayoral candidate. I'd like to find out if you feel vindicated by your decision.
With regard to people like Sibongile Mwamba and other members of parliament, Chavinga, Mungandu, and so on, the ones who the public were seeing parading before Hakainde Hichilema, joining him on tours and so on, they declaring that they are going to support Hakainde Hichilema, those ones were already lost. And Sibongile was already lost by that time. And when they voted for Bill 7, it didn't come to me as a surprise. So what she did here is not only vindicating my action, it is just showing that she was already sold. She had already departed from the Patriotic Front. So even when she was coming in our meetings, we were not sure that she would vote with us. We were dead sure that she had already declared her support for Hakainde.
From where you stand, are you expecting any more defections or acts of indiscipline, especially from the MPs that voted for Bill 7?
The MPs that voted for Bill 7 were expelled. However, the provisions of the constitution of the PF is that a person who has been expelled or who has left the party can reapply to be readmitted. So those who feel that they really made a decision unconsciously and they want to show remorse and they want to apply for readmission, I will be the first one to go to the Central Committee and say, please consider their reapplications.
So other than the reapplications, is there a plan to reunite the party and make it strong as you head to the General Conference?
Yes, that's what we're working at. We're working at uniting everybody. This is why I have been requesting the Council of Elders to call particularly presidential aspirants, because as things are now, it appears as though the presidential aspirants, because of their campaigns and so on, and because of endorsement here and endorsement there and so on, that they are the ones who are creating an impression that the party has factions. So once we harmonize all these presidential aspirants, one would expect that the whole party will be united. And I'm hoping that this can be done as quickly as possible. I was talking to the chairman of the Council of Elders, and he tells me that the Council of Elders are determined to continue their engagement with presidential aspirants and with Central Committee.
Wonderful. As we come to a close, I'd like to you to say a few words to the Zambian people as we enter into 2026, the year where we have a general election.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My first message to our citizens is that we are in the festive season, and during this period we must thank God that He has brought us this far, Ebenezer. And I would like to urge all of us tonight, as we celebrate the coming of the new year 2026, let us do it with civility and also with humility to God. Let us not overindulge. We have gone through a very hard 2025, particularly those of us in the Patriotic Front, and also citizens generally. My heart goes out to those farmers. I'm a farmer too, small-scale farmer. But I have this heart burning for those many Zambian farmers who supplied their maize. After hard work, 1 full year of hard work, they supplied their maize to Food Reserve Agency. We're now at the close of the planting season for 2025-2026, and yet they have not been paid for the maize they delivered to Food Reserve Agency. If you look at the budget for 2026, the government allocated 2.1 billion kwacha to pay farmers who supplied maize to FRA, and yet to date the government is saying it is now looking for money to borrow from a bank to pay our farmers. I can imagine that a lot of our small-scale farmers have not planted. This means that next year a lot of our farmers will go hungry. I feel for them. And all I can do is to pray to God that He will provide for them. For all of us politicians, I want to say, please, let's go into 2026 as a united people. Let us leave behind hate. The kind of hate that we have experienced in 2025 is diabolical. The hate exhibited towards Edgar Chagwa Lungu, to an extent that he goes to die because he was denied medical attention, is the epitome of hate. The cause for the loss of a seat for Chawama by Tasila Lungu, because people in parliament expected her to abandon the remains of her dear father to go into parliament to go and say here, is another epitome of hate. We can't continue with this level of hate. The abrogation of the Constitution, as we saw through Bill 7, the abrogation of the Constitution and parliamentary practice, as we saw that Parliament refuses to release information that is required by the public as to who voted for and against Bill 7, is also a sign of how the country is becoming draconian, how this country is becoming a dictatorship. The exhibition of bias by Speaker Nelly Muti, dancing Chikokoshi in celebration of the passage of such a bill, is also something that we must leave behind. I'm praying to God that the by-elections that are taking place now shall be violent-free. I was in Chawama yesterday. I had to accompany our campaign managers to go and report. the incidences of interruption of our meetings by UPND. And I want to commend our members for being resilient. They did not react. Had they reacted, there could have been violence. I hope the police will come up and ensure that all such incidences of political intolerance and interference are brought to a stop, not only in Chawama, but also in Kasama and all the ward by-elections that are taking place across the country. For Chawama, I want to wish the people there goodwill. Goodwill to Edgar Chagwa Lungu, their former member of parliament. Goodwill to Tasira Lungu, their former member of parliament. And may they discard all those other political parties who are using the logo and the portraits of President Edgar Lungu and Tasira Lungu. All those who are using those portraits and yet are not supported by the PF are masquerading, and they must be discarded. I wish the people of Chawama to vote for Bright Nundwe. And the people of Kasama, you had a hard-working mayor. We have brought you another candidate. Under the chairmanship of George Chisanga in Kasama as campaign manager, I'm hoping that the people of Kasama will also remember Teresa Kolala and give the vote to our candidate, Peter Yuda Chikwete. For all citizens of Zambia, I wish you a very prosperous 2026. For us in the Patriotic Front, prosperity in 2026 means, number one, getting back our Patriotic Front. Number two, going to the convention as a united party. Number three, emerging from the convention as a solid movement, ready to organize ourselves, to work together with our friends in the Tonse Alliance, and to galvanize all other political parties in the opposition, so that in 2026 August, we wrestle authority, not for authority's sake, but for the sake of providing better governance than we have experienced between 2021 and now. A governance that has been experienced, a governance that has proven itself, a governance in the hands of people who are not going into this for experiment's sake, but because they have proven to you that they are capable of leading, people who have experience. To you, all my fellow citizens, all I can say is shalom, shalom, happy 2026.
Mr. President, I know you've said bye. Before I let you go, how much confidence do you have in the ECZ right now to be able to carry out elections in Chawama and also the general elections free and fair? Very little. Very, very little indeed. I join all the others who have declared that the ECZ, under the management of Mwangala Zalomis, a very well-known and very proud member of the UPND, under the management of MacDonald Chipenzi, a ruthless campaigner for the UPND, you cannot expect free and fair elections. What we're depending on now, and not necessarily free and fair elections, but the massive vote of the Zambian people, so that whatever Mingalato they want to play shall be thwarted by the mass turnout of people to go and vote against the UPND in favor of the Patriotic Front, or whatever form we shall come under. Mr. President, I'd like to thank you so much for making time for us and for the Zambian people. Thank you very much indeed. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to appear on your podcast. I really appreciate it. And God bless you. Thank you so much. We've been talking to PF President Given LUBINDA, who's been, been open with us on different matters of national interest. I hope you picked up one or two, and of course, I'll be looking forward to having a conversation with him anytime soon, right after they have their general conference. Until next year, my name is Jackson Piri. Please have yourself a wonderful day.